Imagine this, thousands of people gathered at a massive temple, drums pounding, smoke rising, warriors dragging prisoners up a blood-stained staircase, and at the very top, a priest tears out a still-beating heart. This isn't a scene from a horror movie, it's real history. This was the Aztec Empire. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most shocking, controversial, and mind-blowing rituals in human history: Aztec human sacrifices. Brace yourself, because once you hear this story, you won't forget it. The Aztecs were a mighty civilization that thrived in central Mexico from the 14th to the early 16th century. Their capital city, Tenochtitlan, was a marvel built on a lake filled with canals, gardens, towering pyramids, and bustling markets. At its height, it was larger than most European cities. But while the Aztecs were known for their architecture, astronomy, and art, they were also infamous for something far darker: ritual human sacrifice. To understand why they did this, we need to understand how they saw the world. To the Aztecs, the universe was constantly at war: light versus darkness, order versus chaos. They believed that the gods had created the world through sacrifice, and to keep that balance, humans had to offer blood and life back to the gods. Sacrifice wasn't cruelty, it was cosmic duty. The most powerful god in their pantheon was Huitzilopochtli, the sun and war god. The Aztecs believed that each morning the sun had to fight to rise, and the only thing that gave it strength was human blood. Without sacrifice, the sun would die, the crops would fail, and the world would end. So for them, sacrificing a human being wasn't evil, it was keeping the universe alive. Imagine a society where spilling blood was considered not just holy, but necessary for survival.
Here's how it went down.
Victims, often captured warriors from enemy tribes, were taken to the top of a pyramid temple. The most famous of these was the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan. The priests wore terrifying costumes, some dressed as jaguars, others covered in ash and feathers. The victim would be laid on a stone slab. 4 assistants would hold the arms and legs. Then, with an obsidian blade, the high priest would plunge the knife into the chest, slice through the ribs, and rip out the still beating heart. The heart would be lifted to the sky as an offering. Then the lifeless body was rolled down the stairs, symbolizing the sun's journey back to the underworld.
But it didn't stop there.
Skulls of victims were placed on tzompantli, huge racks that displayed hundreds, even thousands, of human skulls. Some bones were used to craft jewelry or ceremonial instruments. In rare cases, elite nobles consumed small parts of the body in sacred cannibalistic rituals. Contrary to what you might think, not all victims were slaves or prisoners. Some were volunteers.
Yes, volunteers.
Some individuals, especially during major festivals, offered themselves to the gods as a noble act. Being sacrificed was seen as a direct path to paradise. In Aztec belief, dying by sacrifice meant you'd be reborn in the afterlife as a bird or butterfly, or join the sun on its eternal journey. However, not everyone went willingly. Children were often sacrificed to Tlaloc, the rain god. Aztecs believed their tears would bring rain, so before the sacrifice, priests would make them cry, pulling their hair, terrifying them, so their tears would please the gods.
It's one of the darkest truths of this ritual.
And there was symbolism in every detail, from the direction the victim faced to the day on the Aztec calendar it took place. Each sacrifice was more than death. It was a message to the gods, the people, and the enemies watching from afar. The ritual wasn't rushed or chaotic. It was carefully timed, synchronized with the stars, the moon, and seasonal events. The Aztecs believed the universe operated on a precise cosmic rhythm, and their sacrifices were a key to keeping time itself in balance. During certain ceremonies, dancers would spin in circles for hours. Trumpets, flutes, and war drums would echo across the city. Everyone, from the emperor to the commoner, played a role in the spectacle. It was both horrifying and mesmerizing. So how many people were sacrificed? We may never know the exact number, but estimates suggest thousands every year. Spanish records claimed 80,000 people were sacrificed over just 4 days during the dedication of the Templo Mayor in 1487. That number is likely exaggerated, but it paints a picture of the scale. Even modern archaeologists have uncovered skull racks, blood channels, and bone remains confirming mass sacrifices. This wasn't a once-in-a-while ritual. It was systematic, widespread, routine. Sacrifices were not only spiritual, they were political weapons. The Aztecs waged wars not just to win territory, but to capture people for sacrifice. These were called flower wars, staged battles between neighboring city-states with the goal of taking prisoners alive. It was psychological warfare. The message was clear: defy the Aztec Empire and your people will be the next offering on the temple steps. This constant cycle of conquest, sacrifice, and fear kept their empire strong for a time. When the Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernán Cortés, arrived in 1519, they were horrified by what they saw: massive temples soaked in blood, walls of human skulls, and bodies thrown down stone steps. They called the Aztecs savages, but while the Spanish used this to justify conquest, their own actions were far from noble. They brought smallpox, enslaved survivors, and destroyed much of Aztec history. By 1521, just 2 years later, the Aztec Empire had fallen. Tenochtitlan was burned to the ground, and with it, the last great civilization to perform ritual sacrifice on such a scale disappeared. But the story doesn't end there. Even in death, the legacy of Aztec sacrifice echoes. It influences Mexican culture, artwork, literature, and film. Day of the Dead celebrations with their skulls and spiritual offerings carry subtle whispers of ancient rites long past. Tourists today walk the ruins of Tenochtitlan, snapping selfies where blood once flowed. Some leave offerings, others walk away in silence. But all feel something: a strange awe, a chilling reverence, a connection to a civilization both magnificent and terrifying. So, were the Aztecs monsters, or were they victims of misunderstanding? Modern historians argue that the Spanish may have exaggerated the horrors to make their invasion seem righteous. Yet archaeological evidence, murals, tools, bones, backs much of what the conquistadors claimed. The Aztecs weren't evil. They were devout, disciplined, and dedicated to their gods in a way that's almost incomprehensible today. Their cities were cleaner than European ones. Their math, science, and calendars were advanced. And yet their obsession with blood shows how powerful belief can be. The Aztecs believed that without sacrifice the world would end, that the gods demanded a price for every sunrise. But in the end, it wasn't the gods who ended the Aztecs. It was history, it was conquest, and it was the silence that followed. Their temples are now ruins, their skull racks dust, but their story still beating, like the hearts they once held skyward. If this shook you, taught you, or made you think, share this story, because some truths are written in blood. Don't scroll just yet. Let this truth echo like drums across time. This was history's darkest heartbeat, and you just heard it.